Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we bring you an emotional and inspiring African story that will touch your heart. It's about a popular pastor who got involved in a terrible accident, and what happened afterward truly shocked everyone. This story reminds us of faith, destiny, and the mysterious ways life unfolds. So sit back and listen carefully, because every part of this story carries a powerful message. In a small but vibrant town in Africa lived a pastor named Daniel Mwangi. He was not just any pastor, he was loved by thousands. People called him the voice of hope. Every Sunday, his church was filled to the brim, and many claimed their lives changed after hearing his sermons. Pastor Daniel believed deeply in helping others. He fed the poor, visited hospitals, and encouraged young people to follow a righteous path. He had a calm smile that could ease any troubled heart, and a voice that seemed to bring peace wherever it was heard. But behind that smile was a man who carried many burdens. Life had not always been kind to Pastor Daniel. He had grown up poor, raised by a single mother who sold fruits in the market. Despite the hardships, Daniel believed that God had a plan for him. That belief guided his every decision. When he finally built his church, he promised never to forget the people who had nothing. One fateful evening, Pastor Daniel was returning from a charity event in another town. He had gone there to raise funds for an orphanage project that he dreamed of building. The weather was calm, and the road was empty. He drove his old Toyota van while singing softly to a gospel song playing on the radio. He had no idea that within moments everything would change forever. As he approached a sharp curve, a speeding truck came out of nowhere. The driver had lost control after trying to avoid a pothole. Pastor Daniel had no time to react. The two vehicles collided violently. The impact was so strong that his van flipped several times before landing in a ditch. Metal twisted, glass shattered, and within seconds the car was reduced to a wreck. Silence filled the night, broken only by the sound of the rain that began to fall. When people arrived at the scene, they couldn't believe what they saw. The truck driver escaped with minor injuries, but Pastor Daniel was trapped inside. Everyone thought he was gone. The vehicle was crushed beyond recognition, and the sight was too painful to watch. But then, something unbelievable happened. As rescuers pulled the wreckage apart, they found Pastor Daniel still breathing. His pulse was weak, but he was alive. They rushed him to the nearest hospital, where doctors fought for hours to save him. He had multiple fractures, deep cuts, and internal injuries. No one expected him to survive the night. Yet, through the pain and chaos, his lips moved silently in prayer. Even in that critical moment, he whispered words of faith. News of the accident spread quickly. The whole town went into mourning. Church members gathered outside the hospital, singing and praying for a miracle. Many couldn't hold back their tears. How could such a kind and faithful man face something so tragic? For days, his condition remained unstable. Machines kept him alive, and doctors warned his family to prepare for the worst. But Pastor Daniel's story was far from over. On the third night, something extraordinary happened. According to the nurses, just before midnight, his heartbeat stopped. They tried to revive him, but he was gone for several minutes. And then suddenly, his heart started beating again. When he opened his eyes, tears streamed down his face. He asked for a pen and paper and began to write something, though his hands were trembling. Later, he told everyone what he had experienced during those few minutes. He said he found himself walking through a bright, peaceful place. He could hear soft music, and he saw faces filled with light. There he felt no pain, no fear, only love. But then a voice told him, "Your work on earth is not done. Go back and finish your mission." He woke up gasping, realizing that his life had been spared for a reason. Doctors called it a miracle. They said there was no medical explanation for his recovery, but Pastor Daniel believed it was God's way of reminding him that purpose doesn't end in suffering. His healing journey was slow and painful. He had to learn how to walk again, how to move his hands, and how to speak clearly. Yet every day he grew stronger. His faith became unshakable. After several months, he finally returned to his church. When he stood on the stage for the first time since the accident, the congregation erupted in tears and applause. He looked different, thinner, weaker, but his spirit glowed brighter than ever. With a trembling voice, he said, "I died, but I came back because there's still work to do. Never take life for granted. Every breath is a blessing." His story spread far and wide. People from neighboring towns came to hear him speak. Reporters covered his miraculous recovery, and even non-believers were moved. He became a symbol of faith and endurance, but Pastor Daniel didn't stop there. He used his second chance at life to create lasting change. He completed the orphanage he had started before the accident. He named it New Life Home, dedicated to children who had lost their parents in tragic ways. He also started a foundation that helped accident victims and provided free counseling for families who had suffered trauma. Every time he spoke to them, he would say, "Pain is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your strength." People often asked him how he managed to stay positive after such a terrible event. His answer was always the same: "Because I saw the light, and it reminded me that hope never dies." He forgave the truck driver who caused the accident, visiting him personally and praying with him. That act of forgiveness shocked many. But Pastor Daniel believed that true healing begins when you let go of anger. Years passed, and his influence grew. He traveled to many countries sharing his testimony, and countless people found faith through his words. He inspired doctors, students, and even skeptics. The man who was once broken became a beacon of strength for millions. One day, during an interview, he was asked what he had learned from the experience. He smiled and said, "Before the accident, I used to preach about faith. After the accident, I started living it." That statement became one of the most quoted lines in Africa's spiritual community. But beyond the fame and attention, Pastor Daniel remained humble. He still visited hospitals and prisons, still ate with the poor, still offered words of hope to anyone who needed them. He said that life's biggest lesson was that every trial has a purpose. Sometimes we have to be broken to discover how strong we truly are. Even today, people in his town speak of that night as a turning point. They remember the wreckage, the prayers, and the miracle that followed to them. Pastor Daniel's survival was not just luck, it was a message from above. It reminded everyone that faith can move mountains and that miracles are real. The story of Pastor Daniel continues to inspire people across Africa and beyond. It teaches that no matter how dark life becomes, light will always find a way to shine through. It also reminds us that every pain carries a purpose and every setback can become a testimony. So, the next time you face something that feels impossible, remember the story of the pastor who came back from death to share hope with the world. His journey proves that even in the deepest valley, there is still grace waiting for those who believe. And that's the story of how a popular African pastor went through a terrible accident, but came out stronger, wiser, and more faithful than ever. What happened next truly shocked everyone, not because it was unbelievable, but because it revealed the power of divine purpose and human resilience. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful and inspiring African stories that remind us of the strength of the human spirit. Until next time, keep believing, keep hoping, and never give up on the miracles that life can bring.